So Among Us is the latest internet craze. It has everybody playing the game, watching other people play the game, and making game developers want to recreate its success. Originally I had the genius idea of turning Among Us into a 3D game, but it turns out that Dani beat me to it, and he did it much better than I could ever imagine. And he wasn't the only one either. BigToeDev also made a 3D version of the game, so at this point I realized that I'm a little late to this party. So instead of making the logical advancement from a 2D game to a 3D game, I decided to go back to a simpler time in games. The first thing I did was try to make an 8-bit version of the character. I realized what I'm doing isn't really 8-bit, and more like tracing the original with less pixels. But I don't know how to make pixel art, so I had to compromise. Then I saw the map and realized how much work would be needed to recreate it. So at this point I decided to self-impose a 1-day time limit challenge on myself, not because I wanted to take an easy way out or anything, but because I wanted to make the video more interesting or something. You guys believe me, right? Since I have this 1-day time limit, I just found a picture of the Skeld map and added a pixelated mosaic filter to it. When we place the character on top of it, it looks really blurry and low res, but you know, there's just nothing we can do with this 1-day time limit. Next I wanted to get the character moving around, so I made a really bad looking walk cycle, and made a script to get the character to walk around. Finally, I added a shadow underneath the character to make them pop out a bit more. Then I went back into Photopia, since I'm too poor to afford Photoshop, and I created a few more characters using different colors, and I also made a sprite for the body. Now I can throw them all into the game together, and change the sprites for when they're alive and when they're not. At this point there's no actual gameplay other than running around, so I need to make all of the abilities. I started by opening up Photopia again, and making icons for the report button, as well as the use button and the vent button. Then I started placing triggers around the map to indicate all the vents on the map. And around that time it was already 5:30 PM, so I wanted to eat dinner. But after I ate, I didn't feel like working anymore, so I decided that when I finally roll out of bed at noon the next day, that I would pretend it was 5:30 again. This still counts as a 1-day challenge, right? Anyways, with most of the ability icons finished, I started getting to work on adding the actual abilities. As an imposter, walking up to a vent will bring up the vent icon, and pressing it will place you inside the vent. I didn't make an animation for hopping in and out of the vents, so the character just suddenly vanishes and reappears. Then I reused the arrow from the use icon to make the arrows for the vents. They only appear when you're in the vent, and clicking them will take you to a vent that it's pointing to. Next I needed some gameplay mechanics for the crewmates. I added some triggers all around the map for some of the tasks. Walking near one of your tasks will make the use icon light up, and walking away will make it go back to normal. Then I had to actually make some tasks for them to do, and I decided to just make them all into download tasks since it's the easiest task to recreate. Want to do leaves? It's a download task. Want to pour some oil? It's a download task. Want to fix lights? It's a download task. Want to do Simon Says? Well actually no one wants to do Simon Says, so I think this is actually a plus. And to keep track of how many tasks have been done, I added a taskbar. Since right now it's only a 1-player game, every task you finish will increase the bar by 1 tick. And now it's time to add the exciting stuff. I made 2 more icons, one for the kill ability and one for the sabotage ability. When playing as an imposter, I made it so that you can only kill the other players when you get within a certain range. I'm not sure how it determines which person to pick as a target, because sometimes it'll skip over one person and target the person next to them. And now that there's a body, we have to be able to report it. But we also need to have names to figure out who is who. So I added names for all the colors to avoid confusion, except for this one, because Corpse is my favorite Among Us player right now. I added a trigger to the button on the table to be able to call a meeting. Walking up and using the button will stop the game and call it an emergency meeting, but walking up to a dead body and reporting it will call a meeting with a body reported. Both methods of reporting will bring all of the players to the table, and will destroy any bodies that are not alive. It'll also bring you to the voting screen, where you can choose who to vote off. Since you're the only player, your vote is the only one that matters, so whoever you pick will get voted off and they won't appear in the next round. The last thing to do is make the sabotage ability, but before that, first I needed to get a working minimap. I traced around the map to get an outline and made 2 different versions. One that's filled in with blue for the basic map that tells you where the tasks are, as well as one that's red for the imposters to sabotage. Then I placed a tiny version of the character on the map to show you where you are. And finally, I placed little icons on the mini-map to show where the tasks are, and added a nuclear icon on the sabotage map so that the imposters can call reactor. Calling reactor will start making the lights flash red, and the alarm will go off. And the only way to stop it is to go over to the reactor, and instead of placing your hand on the scanner, you do a download. And now I've been working on this for a total of a little over 12 hours, and even though I didn't do all the work on the same day, I still consider this a successful attempt at making the game in 1 day. You know what? Don't even bother voting to get me out. I'll just do it myself. Alright, see ya.